good morning or good afternoon or good evening wherever you are in the world. Talent Finders would like to welcome the head of the Curve Creative Director, $100 million new business wins, Fortune 500 CPG brands, branding, retail, restaurant, private label, sports and entertainment, licensing, product innovation, Joel Kirstein. So welcome, Joel.
Hi, thank you for having me here today, Corinne. I really appreciate it a lot.
So Joel, firstly, I'd like to congratulate you on all your achievements. Can you share with us how your entrepreneurial journey started?
Yes, I've been very fortunate. In the last 37 years since I got out of school, I had the good fortune to get to work on a very eclectic array of Fortune 500 CPG brands, mainly food, and working in ad agencies and branding companies and so forth. And even on the client side as well, I've been very fortunate. I've been able to go back and forth. When I was looking to fly higher, as it were, for lack of a better term, I was very, very interested in seeing what I could do on my own. And basically what fueled that entrepreneurial journey was the will to want to do bigger and better things. And I'm happy to report that I was very successful at accomplishing that. And people would ask me, what do you think the key element is? And I said, abject fearlessness, because you have to go out with the idea that you really, really need to not be constricted by what happens if this doesn't work out, or what happens if it's a bumpy ride. And like life itself, nothing is ever a smooth paved road or a nice plush carpet. So having said that, that really, really helped me to mitigate surprises. And things are always going to come up no matter how well prepared you are. The question is, it's not a matter of if you make mistakes, what do you do to rectify them? Yeah. And I believe that my resiliency is at the core of my success architecture.
Amazing. So branding and marketing is such a competitive industry, and clients have become more conscious of their spend and authentically connecting with their audience. How and what do you believe you do differently to make what you do different from your competitors in terms of your clients?
Simply said, I have an innate ability to look at things differently than other people do. And even though that sounds very generic, it really, really isn't. The core of my success has always been, Corinne, being able to take a very forensic approach to find where the answers lie, take a really, really deep dive into the core essence of a brand, see what was at the beginning of that brand's success, and try to leverage that. Try to see, where does it fit in today's world? How can we leverage this now on social media? How can we leverage this as far as content generation? And basically, my success has always been based on, and what makes me different than other people is I believe that your messaging needs to be clear, it needs to be singular in its focus, and it needs to be absolutely direct. That it can't be this long, convoluted journey that people are not going to join you on to see it through to the end. It has to be compelling, grab your interest, and be able to provide a solution, a compelling case as to why you should be going with this brand as opposed to the brands that you're going with currently.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say some of your biggest lessons have been within your career?
That's a great question. And one of the things that I found is that there were never any, Corinne, deep philosophical differences with the people that I'm working with. And when I say the people that I'm working with, I'm talking about specifically the brands. It was never a strategic battle. It was never a creative difference of opinion or anything like that. I found more than anything else, the biggest lessons is how to get across to people who they come into it at best very, very skeptical. At the end of the day, no matter how smart I might be, no matter how much I impress them, if they don't like me, they're not going to want to work with me. And people say to me, well, you know, I'm sure a lot of people like you, which is true, they do, but a lot of times people will not like you for whatever irrational, unreasonable reason. And that's the sort of thing that you really have to get people's mindset away from that and position yourself as a solutions provider. And that's what I've been very successful at doing. But it's a lot of hard work. It's an investment in time. You have to take your lumps once in a while. You have to deal with people who you otherwise wouldn't give the time of day to. But
and you have to put your personal feelings aside because business is business. 100%.
Yeah, and hope that you're going to find something to show that person who's not a fan why it's in their best interest to become your fan, because you want them to see that you care about the brand. You can help drive sales and engagement, that you're setting the brand up, and I'll use the American football terms here, that you're not one and done or three and out, but you're building something that's built to last.
Absolutely. So that leads me to social media and how it's impacted and changed so many industries. So what and how has this impacted you and your business from both a positive and negative perspective? It has also created a lot of noise. So what do you believe you do differently to cut through the clutter in terms of branding and marketing?
That's a great question. I love social media because of the immediacy of it, the fact that you're able to drive a lot of content, and market to the same people, but in different opportunities, in different ways. So when I started working in the industry in the early 80s, it was basically if you designed an ad, and let's say the ad was funny, you hope that it appeals to people who have a sense of humor. Sometimes people don't want to be appealed to on a humorous level.
No.
Other people don't have a sense of humor whatsoever. I think 2020 is proof of that a lot of people no longer have a sense of humor, probably through no fault of their own. In social media, you're able to strike different type of tones. I love the fact that in social media, it's another weapon at my disposal, in my arsenal, to be able to bring a brand to life. The other part of your question, the negative side of it, there is a lot of noise. There's a lot of clutter. There's a lot of basically nonsense that clogs up the arteries of progress that really don't add any value, and it's getting to the point where people wonder, not only is this true, but is this even a real product? And I've seen where people are doing things on TikTok, on Instagram, and so forth, other social media platforms, and they're not even real products. They're just doing it to see who's going to respond, what is the response to it, and what type of volume can they push. So that's something that is basically a waste of time, and it clutters up things unnecessarily. But I think like anything else, 25 years ago when the online space started, it took a while for everybody to get their feet underneath it. But I do believe very, very strongly that, like the online space, I remember in 1999, everybody in the agency world was saying, forget about print, everything is going to be a website. And that didn't happen. And even though print has been diminished and is not the number one way to go, whether it's direct mail or print advertising, because less and less people are, for instance, reading magazines and newspapers, it hasn't died, and it will not go away. It won't be number one in the batting order, but it certainly won't be sitting on the bench either.
No.
Um,
And
I
also a lot of it shifted to digital anyway.
Yes, and what we've seen is now you can get, as far as content goes, regardless of the quality, you can get a logo produced in the third world for $5. You can get a website also produced somewhere in the third world for $10. So I see social media I see that happening too, that in the next 5 to 10 years, maybe even sooner, where we're going to see social media become such a technical commodity that it's going to be able to do incredibly sophisticated things with an ease of use that's just going to be mind-numbing, because the technology is just driving such a high level of sophistication that I see that I believe that it's going to really become a technical digital Swiss Army knife. So if you want to do all these wonderful things, you'll be able to do all of this on social media. And I would go so far as to say that social media eventually will, and you heard it here first, will eventually replace websites, because they'll want people, once they visit their social media platform, whether it's proprietary or whether it's something like Instagram or Twitter or so forth, that you're going to go there and everything that you want to do, learn about the product, order the product, be able to affect change in that product, will happen on social media. So you heard it here first.
Yes, amazing. So what are some of your career highlights? And you probably had many, but what are the ones that stand out to you the most?
I've been very fortunate, as I mentioned, Corrine, to work on Fortune 500, a very eclectic Fortune 500 group of CPG brands. When I had a chance to do some inventory, when I sent you my list, I was impressed myself that I've worked in the last 37 years on specifically 61 different CPG brands, mainly in the food category, food and restaurants. So I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the fact that one of my biggest wins was in 2011, I actually got Jim Beam barbecue sauce back into Walmart after that product had been delisted. Wow. When a product gets delisted at retail, it's a death sentence. And part of the problem with that particular brand was it got tired, and when Walmart here in the US went to their clean store policy a little over 10 years ago, underperforming brands were pushed off the shelves, where they only wanted the best and the brightest. The interesting thing about that was Jim Beam barbecue sauce was not a languishing brand that was last in sales. What happened was Budweiser got the rights to sell beer at Walmart, and part of the deal was, if you want our beer, you have to take our barbecue sauce. So unfortunately, Jim Beam, a competitor in the barbecue sauce category to Budweiser barbecue sauce, took it in the neck, and they got delisted. Their licensing agency came to the company that I was with at the time, and they said, "Can you get us back into Walmart?" So of course I said yes, not knowing any of the backstory. When I found out what I just shared with you, it seemed to me that they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Though the brand had gotten a little tired looking, they really didn't do anything that was self-destructive. So what I created with my team, and this was a collaborative effort, was a new brand platform to make it exciting, to make this Jim Beam barbecue sauce program called the Ultimate Griller, that it would appeal to guys who are blue collar, literally, or in their sensibility, guys who have tattoos, watch UFC and Ultimate Fighting, they work out, they probably drive a pickup truck, SUV, or a motorcycle, they own about $5,000 to $10,000 in tools, they like to grill, obviously, because it's barbecue sauce. Their beverage of choice is beer, and so on and so forth. So these type of guys, and more importantly, is that we wanted to create a brand that the women in their lives, their wives, mothers, aunts, sisters, girlfriends, work colleagues perhaps, would go and buy this for that type of guy, or even guys like me who, even though I'm not a blue-collar guy, I do have a blue-collar sensibility because my dad was a construction electrician. So I grew up in that, and I relate to that, even though that's not what I do for a living.
Yes, of course, but you understand that market.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what happened is that I created a visual brand integrity that would appeal, very testosterone driven, very muscular looking, with a lot of diamond plate and a lot of metallic and a lot of really very prominent and dominant graphics that will apply, really appeal to guys like that. The windup is that it had a 98% sell-through at Walmart. Got a very nice letter from Walmart thanking us and our team for what we did. It had a 98% sell-through Q4 2011 at retail in Walmart, and we sold another almost about 250,000 units. Another 6 other retailers, smaller retailers. We did account customization by account, so the packaging basically changed. So that was very, very enjoyable, that we got to do the same product but in different shapes and sizes and configurations of the packaging. And I was very, very proud that I was able to get a product that I delivered on my promise to get them back into Walmart. And the interesting thing was, when I was tasked with this assignment, I had a vision of what it is I wanted to do, and I was meeting with the buyer at that time, Kim Kelly, at Walmart, and I asked Kim, I said, Kim, do me a favor, can you take a look at this and let me know what you think, because I really respect your opinion. And she had no idea that I was going to be approaching her with this somewhere in the near future down the road. And she looked at it, and she was a person of very few words, and she just looked at me and smiled and said, I'll buy this right now. And
amazing.
So that was an amazing experience. So as a career highlight, that has to be number one.
Amazing. So your expertise is a niche market, but broad, from restaurants, retail, sports and entertainment, licensing, to name a few. Can you share with us more about this and what made you choose this as your focus?
A couple of things. When I got out of school in 1983, my dad was a very smart guy, very innately intelligent. He said to me that there's a very good likelihood, even though the technology of 1983 seems, archaic and Stone Age by today's standard, he said technology is never going to replace food and eating, so I think you should hitch your wagon to that star, and I did. And here we are 37 years later, and my dad was right yet again. The older I become, the smarter my dad becomes. And as a result, I feel vindicated that I stuck with his advice to be able to continue to really do some very, very compelling work in the food industry, both with food products and restaurant chains. How it overlapped to include sports and entertainment licensing. Working in ad agencies, Kareem, I got the opportunity to be able to do the type of work for instance, for fast food chains about 25 years ago, where you go into Burger King, and at the time, the first program like this that I worked on, I got to work on a program at Burger King for the Godzilla movie that came out in 1996, I think it was, and doing all kinds of really cool shopper marketing, in-store activation with this licensed movie overlay. So you borrow the equity to drive traffic to the retailer. Fast forward a few years later in 2004, and I'm working on a program for Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper was a licensed sponsor of the Spider-Man 2 movie in 2004. So what we got them to do, besides a lot of really cool shopper marketing stuff, where again, you take the borrowed equity, you take a food product, and you put it into retail and you create all this excitement on shelf, in store, in aisle for that particular food brand. And you're also using the borrowed equity of that particular movie license. What made it even more compelling is we convinced Dr. Pepper to give up the real estate on their actual physical cans and put the various Dr. Pepper, Spider-Man characters on their cans of Dr. Pepper. And this took a lot of convincing, but one of the things that I leveraged was the fact that, as we know, everything is a collectible today, or at least it seems that way. And one of the things, going back to the Jim Beam Ultimate Griller, another licensed opportunity, what we found out, Corrine, was basically this, is that people were buying them, and the same thing with Dr. Pepper with the Spider-Man cans, they were hugely successful as a collectible, as was the Jim Beam Ultimate Griller barbecue gift set. People were buying them in threes, one to use, one to keep, because as you know, if you keep everything long enough, it'll be worth $1 million, right?
Yeah.
And one to repurpose as a gift. And one of the things I've been very successful in my career is create, literally, if not figuratively, a collectible aspect to a product. So I give Dr. Pepper a lot of credit, because it was a tough sell getting them to give up, you know, their prime piece of real estate are their cans and their bottles and their boxes, and giving that up to let, you know, Spider-Man as a license or Jim Beam as a license overtake the brand, and using that as a delivery system. You know, that's the type of work that I excel at. And to close the circle here, really, I've been very fortunate that a lot of the work that I've gotten to do at retail has turned into this Venn diagram of retail CPG products, sports and entertainment licensing. I've gotten to work with all the studios. I've gotten to work with all the pro sports leagues, NASCAR, and also the NCAA, which is the body that governs college sports here in America, which, as you know, is massive. It's a juggernaut.
Yeah, it's very big, huge.
Yeah, it's enormous. And also, I've done licensing as well with toy companies, people like Mattel, people like Crayola, and especially Hasbro. So what's happened is that there's this Venn diagram going on all over the place, where you have retail product, you have the borrowed equity of a license, you have brands doing really cool things, and more than anything else, one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about licensing is it's really a dream come true. As a creative problem solver and as a designer, what happens is that you get to do creative for a creative entity. So you're dealing with people, whether it's the pro sports leagues or a movie or a toy company, you're speaking the same creative proprietary language as them. And they get it right off from the jump. Immediately, they get your vision. They're very supportive of it. They want to see the type of things that they haven't seen before. So I didn't intend to go out to do all of these movie promotions at retail, and it's even extended to experiential out-of-home event marketing, what we call retailtainment events. So you bring the magic of the movies into retail, either in the store, in aisle, or in the parking lot of a Walmart, of a Kroger, of a different type of retailer, even CVS, and you do these really fun, engaging type of things. My philosophy about that, and my MO for doing that, is basically create an aura around that brand, that every time a consumer comes in contact with that brand, you condition them to come to expect to see something cool, something engaging, something thought-provoking, something obviously that's going to compel them to want to buy the product. That goes without saying. But they become conditioned that this is a brand that makes the consumer think. If that consumer is thinking about your brand and they start to think, well, every time I see this brand, there's something going on that appeals to me. It makes me smile. They're always trying different things. They're really trying hard to get my business. Now you're creating emotional brand equity. And if you're really, really good at it and you really understand who your audience is, then you get to elevate to a level like people such as Apple, Nike, McDonald's, and other people that occupy that rarefied air up at that strata. So that's always my goal, is to elevate brands.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you've worked with some incredible global brands such as Pepsi, Kellogg, Nestle, and many more. Can you share with us how this came about, as those are not easy brands to work with? And what would you say helped you gain the business, and how do you believe you helped navigate these brands to a more authentic marketing strategy as consumers have become smarter in their consumerism?
That's a great question. To start off answering that, some of the brands are very, big brands are very, very structured, maybe a little bit too much so, but given their size, I'll defend them by saying they really, really need to have a process that's out at a purpose. And though some people might find it confining, I never had that problem. I know where the boundaries are when I start, and I know what will and won't fly, so I don't waste time exploring things that they may like, but they're never going to go for. A lot of times you have brands that are so rigidly structured that the process almost eliminates the purpose, where they in fact confuse the process for the purpose, and it's very, very difficult to get them to stop doing what they've been doing, because they wouldn't be talking to me if things were going along perfectly. And it's like that cartoon that we see on LinkedIn all the time and everywhere else. There's a guy fighting a war. He's all covered in arrows. A guy's knocking on his 10th door, trying to show him a gun, how this is a game changer. And he tells him, I'm too busy fighting the war to look at any better ideas. So there is a lot of that type of lack of vision to recognize not just the big idea, but things that are game changers. It's once been said that if you want to know what the future is going to be like, create it. And now we have the technology to mold and shape, the proverbial lump of clay or that lump of coal and turn it into a diamond, and we don't have to rely so much on other people to do that. So it's really, really interesting that brands, what I've tried to do is help them understand that authentic marketing strategy really comes from being in a position of leading. That what you want to do, Corinne, is redefine the space that you play in. Yeah. And it's all, and now obviously people are coming up with their own proprietary technology, which I think is a wonderful thing, because that's absolutely empowering. It gives you the freedom to do what other people are not doing, and people will respond to that technology sometimes more for that reason than the brand itself. Now, at the end of the day, obviously the brand has to deliver. And to your point about the brand not being authentic, the only thing that great marketing does for a poor quality product is hasten its demise. It exposes it to more people who are going to find out that this product does not deliver. And it's all about, as far as the consumerism goes, to answer that part of your question, it's really, really important not only to be authentic, but people want to be engaged on an intellectual level. We are the most intelligent consumers in the history of mankind. We have more retail intel in our hands, in our smartphones, than people probably could have ever ever imagined. And
Yeah.
everything that we want to know about a product, we have at our fingertips in a nanosecond.
Yeah.
And I believe that brands that help facilitate that ease of access to them are the ones that are going to be built to last, and if nothing else, will survive the retail apocalypse here in the US.
Yeah, that makes sense, 100%. So COVID-19, which is obviously our current situation, has turned our world upside down and inside out. So can you share with us how this has affected your business and how you've had to adapt and pivot? And can you give us any examples?
Yeah, I'm a very good case study for that. Definitely the worst year I've ever experienced. Cannot wait for all this to be over. And even after we're all inoculated and immune to it, and we go back to our lives, I have no doubt about it. The same way we get a flu shot every year, we're going to be getting a COVID shot every year, and maybe other type of shots, because who knows what else is going to come up.
Yeah.
I had an initiative where I was bringing a licensed product to retail. That is not going to happen, because I designed a barbecue gift set that was going to be going into this really cool collectible 9-ounce glass guitar-shaped bottle. And it is the coolest thing you have ever seen. The problem is, the only place that you can get cost-effective, custom-designed glass is in China. And as you know, nothing is coming out of China over here to the US.
Yeah.
So all of the prices that I got from printers, suppliers, and so on and so forth, my supply chain in 2019 will not be holding their price once things start coming over here to the US from China. So my cost per unit will not be able to allow me to get this into retail. So I'm looking at a different direction. Further to that point, so that initiative has died on the vine, unfortunately. The other problem that I've experienced this year, I've lost 4 or 6 clients that have gone under. They're small food companies. They were not able to weather the storm. So it's been a very, very challenging and trying year for me. But given my nature and being the positive person that I am, whatever I find thrown at me, there's always a way around it, through it, over it, or under it. I raised my profile on LinkedIn, started posting videos. I have a YouTube channel. I use social media. I network ferociously on LinkedIn, and in a very short period of time, it built up, and next month I will hit 25,000 connections. It's all about getting to the decision makers, and that's still a work in progress, because even though I am resonating with that level of person on LinkedIn, the distraction of COVID is nothing short of blinding. So you have a lot of people who basically feel like they don't know what to do, so they won't do anything. And we all know, in the worst of times, 2 things. That's the time that you have to raise your profile. And I respect and I'm sensitive to the fact that not everybody has a war chest where they can go all out and spend a ton of money to be able to, keep their market, coming back to them for more. So I understand that the competition is absolutely psychotic in its proportion. But we all knew that, Corinne, when we got into it. The
100%.
The other thing is that also the distraction of the COVID virus has been just debilitating and incapacitating in its level of negativity, the fear mongering.
Yeah, it's the fear mongering which is the issue, because I think that's what I said, even a few weeks ago, was that no one is saying the severity of the disease is non-existent or isn't serious, but the issue that I have is the media platforms and the fear-mongering and the political rhetoric that's going on, and that's the thing that is, causing a lot of problems for a lot of people in terms of fear.
Correct. And I say to people that almost 20 years ago, right after 9/11, in the days and weeks and months after, we didn't know what was going to happen. Is the Third World War starting? And I'm sensitive to that, to what's going on today, certainly because of that. And I understand that this is a very serious matter. Anything that impacts the entire globe, we have to take seriously. But without being insensitive at the same time, life has to go on, and we still need food, and we still need to go to work, and we still need to
and there's still bills to pay.
Yeah, exactly. And we still need to drive the engine of progress. As much as we don't feel like it, our heart isn't into it. We're very worried. And it's more than just a distraction. We really have to keep our eye on the ball, to keep ourselves whole, to keep ourselves safe, to be able to have the resiliency to get through this. And I remember asking my dad, he lived through the Depression and also the Second World War. And I asked him, I said, how did that factor into your thinking? Because the Depression lasted pretty much a decade, an entire decade. World War II ran for 6 years. Where did you find the strength, the resiliency, the stick-to-itness, as we say here in America, to get through it when you're dealing with something that is relentless? I wake up, Kareem, every single day, and I'm in a great mood. And then I remember what's going on, and I got to tell you, as positive as I am, it certainly, I have my days where it takes
its toll, for sure.
Oh yeah, it takes the edge off of me too. I think it would be disingenuous for myself, or anybody for that matter, to say that they don't have their bad days too. If anything, I would be worried if somebody told me that this wasn't bothering them or affecting them. So,
yeah. But to that point, Joel, I mean, do you think, because, in my perspective, or just from my viewpoint, I think that our society is just become so spoiled. And like, if you had to take our generation of people that has access to all this technology, to, things that have made life easier, but also complicated things on many levels, and put them back in the time of, the plague or World War, I mean, a lot of people would not hack it. And I think that there is a certain level of this generation of, being way too spoiled and way too entitled. And this is why you also see behavioral issues, because, people wear masks, other people don't wear masks. Like, it's all this, what should we do, what shouldn't we do? And then other people are so fed up that they just go do whatever they want. So I do feel that there is a certain level of entitlement. And I just think that if they had to be in that period of time, they wouldn't survive.
Yeah, I would concur with that 5,000%, that there is a real lack of what I was told, because I wasn't around in World War II, just as an example, a real lack of being willing to meet that challenge head on. My father served in World War II. He was in the Army and met the challenge head on. And, like many people, there was a very real risk that he wasn't going to come back alive. Unfortunately, he did, and that's why I'm here talking to you today. But I noticed something, and this speaks to consumerism, that after 9/11, everybody here in America pulled together. Everybody was on site for a small, short period of time. And then I noticed something where people didn't want to deal with the reality of the situation. And I see the same thing happening now, where there's an old joke by Robin Williams when a long time ago, he said, when the going gets tough, the tough go shopping. And what I saw was after 9/11, and the exact same thing is happening now. People don't want to deal with the reality of COVID, so they figure, let me bury myself in my phone, social media, let me go and buy stuff, because that's going to give me an immediate gratification fix. And that's great for marketers like myself. That's great for retail, because we do need to
we do need to drive the economy.
Yeah, we need to keep the engine of the economy going more importantly during bad times than even good times.
Mm.
And what's happened is that I see people that their main focus is distraction. That
Yeah.
happened after 9/11, and I see the exact same thing, even more of it, happening now. I see an upside to that. People want to find things where they can see hope. People, this is the best time to see those opportunities, and I do see these opportunities where that other people do not see. How to get people to be excited about things. History, literal history, has shown us after every time something goes down in the valley. A very good example of this, after President Kennedy was assassinated in 1963, along came in early 1964, along came the Beatles. And people glommed onto the Beatles like they hadn't seen anything like it before, which they hadn't, obviously. And they completely changed the face of music and rock and roll. But people wanted to be uplifted. People wanted something to make them feel good, to be excited about something. The Beatles were a concept, really and truly, that captured the imagination of everybody in the world. And the best brands that I mentioned before, at that exalted level, at that strata that Apple and McDonald's and Nike fly at, they're the ones that have an ability to create that type of global excitement. Coca-Cola as another example of a brand. And it's all in how you're able to come across and show your authenticity. I believe every brand has authentic DNA. They do have that authenticity. The key is, how compelling is it going to be to a consumer? How do you get it across to a consumer that it appeals to them? And basically, you can't be all things to all people.
No.
But the great thing about social media is that you can market to the same people in a different way, using intellect, using humor, using logic, using other type of approaches to show a dimension to your brand, that your brand, like people, has many sides to it. That it can be, a brand can be complex without it being complicated.
Absolutely. So what are the 3 key pieces of advice you would give to other entrepreneurs? And what legacy would you like to leave, or how would you like to be remembered?
One of the things that I would have to say is that you have to be relentless, and that you have to be on all the time, because a lot of the opportunities that I've had the good fortune to get to work on really happened almost falling backwards into them, because you can plan for success, and success may never happen. And then a lot of times you're in a position where the most casual of conversations lead you to the most wonderful of occurrences and results, relationships and business that take you to a much better place, that really are a part of your success architecture. I also would tell anybody, you need to be fearless. When people say, Joel, can you do that? Though I can't be all things to all people. So as a creative director, I'm not a digital guy, in the sense that I'm not going and doing the back end stuff, like doing wireframe, working on Figma, literally doing the user interfaces myself. I'm doing the strategic direction, and I'm fearless in going out and getting the people to collaborate with, the best and the brightest people who can help me deliver the best results for my clients. So you have to be fearless, that I don't worry about that I don't know how to do coding. I don't worry about that I don't know, that I'm not a full stack developer or something like that, but that I'm fearless in my approach, that whoever I need to bring in, to collaborate, to get something really wonderful happening, that I will learn about that from collaborating with them. And the same thing holds true, bringing my product that I mentioned earlier to market. Basically, one of the great things that I learned from brands is you ask them what goes on to get your product from an idea in somebody's head in a boardroom onto the shelf. And they will talk to you all day, all night, all year to share with you what goes on behind the curtain. And many, dozens of Fortune 500 brands, CPG brands, have told me what that magic is. And it's all clear, logical. I learned about supply chain. And when I started building my own product, that barbecue gift set that comes in the guitar-shaped bottles that are collectible, there was no part of that journey and path that came to me as a surprise. Now, it took a long time to find the right supplier who had the right price and the right quality. And I had created 4 sauce recipes, and I was very specific. I didn't want to use high fructose corn syrup because it's bad for you. I wanted stuff that was going to be old school barbecue sauce made with either molasses or sugar cane, which is actually better for you in moderation.
Yes.
And as a result, the journey, so long as I'm learning, that's what inspires me. And sometimes the most creative part of my process isn't necessarily designing the packaging, designing a logo or a display for retail or some other sort of thing that somebody needs, but creatively putting everything together. I heard a really great quote that I think sums up what I'm trying to say from the entertainment industry. Somebody said that 80% of directing in a movie is done in casting. So if you surround yourself with the best possible talent, and I always do that, and I always go after the people who are smarter than me, and I'm pretty smart myself, but I always want to go with people who are smarter than I am, but can communicate to me why it is, what they're doing, and how this is bringing an elevated level of value. I think that you also, to answer your question, you need to be accountable, accessible, and available. And this is something that a lot of creative people find very challenging, where they want to work in a vacuum. They don't want to be especially communicative to people. They have a tendency to be antisocial. And to me, that doesn't fly, because even though, yes, I am a designer, working creative director, at times my job is to be like a lawyer and qualify and quantify the case I'm trying to win in front of a jury of brands. So there's that component. Then there's the component where I feel like I'm a detective and I have to go, and I basically go to the scene of the crime, which is basically a brand that their sales are not happening, and I have to reverse engineer how did they get to that point, where are all the clues that led them to the bad place that they're in, and now this is going to allow me to have the intel to be able to solve this dilemma and be able to basically arrest sales.
Yes, absolutely. So the final question is, what legacy would you like to leave? Or how would you like to be remembered?
That people liked working with me, that people, the best way is that people have said this to me many times in my career, I like working with Joel because he gets it. I believe, Corinne, there's 2 types of people in this industry: people who get it and people who don't. And the reason why I get it is because I'm one part idealist, one part perfectionist, one part visionary. You know, that I always believe that if it doesn't exist, well, let's create it. You know, there used to be this sensibility in America: be the first kid on your block with this, whatever this might be. And I believe that we've lost that. And it's ironic because we live in the most innovative of times thanks to technology. But I think a lot of technology really, really, truly intimidates people.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
because a lot of people feel like, I'm hesitant and I have reservations to ask about it because I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm talking about. And one of my legacies is being a hyper effective communicator. If there's something that you don't know, I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to make you feel bad. I'm not going to sell something into you that you don't innately, intellectually, and philosophically embrace and accept and understand. If you can't explain it to yourself, you will fail. I guarantee that if you don't believe in it yourself. And I know that I've been successful in that. I think more than anything else is that my legacy will be that people liked working with me, that I was a nice guy, that I was easy to work with, and I'm proud of the fact that I'm an innovator and that I really truly believe another part of what I am is also a salesperson. You have to service the hell out of your clients. You have to know as much as they know about their brand, care even more than they care about their brand, and be able to tell them, I see a vision for your brand, be it brand extension, be it revenue tentpoles. I see your brand, which is here, and my goal is to keep on elevating it, because that to me is what's going to build a relationship that's built to last.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Joel, for your time, and hopefully we can have you back in the future. So if people would like to connect with you, what are the best platforms to do so?
On LinkedIn, I'm definitely interested in connecting with startup brands as well as established food brands on LinkedIn. So you can find Joel Kirstein there. You can find me on coraflot.com/Joel Kirstein. That's my online portfolio. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. So just look up Joel Kirstein and you'll see this happy, smiling face. I like to think that my smile is my signature, and I believe that it's really, really important, especially at times like this, to really try and be a beacon of positive energy, and that we're all going to get through this, and we'll get out. It'll take a while. We'll get to a better place, and anytime we go through something really ultra challenging like this, it only makes us better and stronger as a result. So I really, really look forward to being at that place.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Joel, and hopefully we can have you back in the future. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Karine. The pleasure's all mine.